Alright folks, now that we got the Avengers movie coming out, it's a pretty opportune time to go back and revisit the Data East Captain America and the Avengers from, I believe it's 1991. And of course, it's a 30-minute long video. We've got a lot to cover. So yeah, sort of the same protocol I did with the Knuckle Bash video a while back. It's not actually a traditional playthrough of me actually playing the video game and doing commentary. I actually filmed the gameplay first, so now I'm going back and doing sort of a player's commentary over the footage I already did. So it's a very unique sort of setup, kind of, sorta, not really. But yeah, much to say about this one. You know, I think if you look at the pantheon of early 1990s licensed beat 'em ups, you know, this is obviously, I think, one of the four holy pillars. Obviously, you had the Simpsons game from Konami, you had Turtles in Time, you had the X-Men 6-player cabinet, and I think you had this one kind of rounding out the rear. At the time, I think this probably was the least popular of the four, but you know, obviously, I think over the years it's got a reputation. It's a much better game than I think we may have originally rated it back in the day. There's a lot of cool things going on. Has a very distinct style. It has more traditional beat 'em up elements, I think, some of the other games we talked about, where it's basically just, you know, it's all about the sprites, and it's about, you know, button mashing, and it's about the random patternizations. This one's a little bit more, well, it's not terribly nuanced, but it has a little bit more of a strategic element to it than the other ones. So yeah, Captain America and the Avengers. One of the things I really like about this game is it has such a bizarre arrangement of like B-tier Marvel characters. Like, do you think you'd ever see Living Laser or Claw in a modern day beat 'em up? I don't think you've ever seen these guys in Marvel vs. Capcom 4. It goes without saying. But yeah, as far as the gameplay itself, very straightforward. You got a jump button, you got an attack button, and if you hit them at the same time, you have a special power-up attack, which depends on which character you're using. Obviously, if you're Captain America, you throw the shield. If you're Iron Man, you have the laser blast. But yeah, lots of really cool things in this game. Obviously, you saw Quicksilver show up, and there are actually a lot of Avengers assist characters throughout the game. You're going to see Wonder Man show up, the Wasp is in there, there's somebody else, name escapes me at the moment. Oh, Namor the Submariner shows up later in the game. So if you're an old school comic book fan, there's definitely lots of neat little Easter eggs here and there. Alright, so as you look at the enemy list here, it's very standard. You got a lot of robots. One of the cool things with the game is you can pick up some ambiance in the background using it as weaponry. And the voice acting, of course, is fantastic. I like how Whirlwind throws the money at you as a projectile. That's a very Marvel thing to do. So yeah, you get to play as 4 different characters here. I'm starting off as Captain America because, you know, I love America. It's pretty much what you expect. I really like the art style. I mean, it's kind of hard to kind of look at it now and kind of make an assessment, but the painting style in the background, where it actually feels like a matte painting, gives it a very comic book, very animated kind of movie feel that I don't think a lot of the other genre games from the era had. So that's certainly pretty cool. And of course, you have the comic book style transitions there. And as far as the enemies in this game, well, as you see here, you got quite a few who you don't normally think of as Avengers stalwarts. In fact, you've got actually quite a few X-Men villains, even if they're not exactly called their normal nomenclature. They are in the game. I'm trying to think, you know, some of the games this reminds me of. You know, it's made by Data East, and they made a lot of pretty solid beat 'em ups back in the day, but it doesn't really feel like any of them. So this is actually kind of more of a platformer beat 'em up hybrid. And the controls are very smooth, has a great pace. It's just an immensely enjoyable game. And as you'll see here, I actually do a little bit of genre mixing up too. So it's not just running around beating the crap out of people. I actually get a little bit of a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up action going on as well. Like I said, you know, the background painting, I think, are very nicely done. You know, it gives it a very animated television program vibe to it. And the sprites aren't bad either. I mean, obviously they're not as complex as some of the others from the era, but they're still alright. Okay, another thing about this game I think is pretty interesting is you'll see up top as I'm rapidly losing health. This is one of those games where you could actually put in a quarter and regain health. I think the maximum was 999 health points. So I think it's a game we saw in Double Dragon 3 had that. One of the WWF WrestleFest games had that mechanic. So that was a kind of a short-lived phenomenon, but it's there. So if you wanted to just dump in, $6, you could probably play the entire game on one credit feasibly. Alright, so we have Wasp here playing Tinkerbell. I think it's supposed to protect you, but I don't know how long it lasts. It's like a 10-second shield of some sort. So I'll be the first to say, some of the boss fights in this game not terribly inventive. You're fighting human torpedoes and just a random airplane. Not going to win any points for creativity, but like I said, the gameplay itself is just very, very fun. It's a solid game with so many cool, nods and homages to the comic. It's obviously made by people who actually care about the source material, which is something you really can't say about a whole lot of licensed game from the epoch. That's for sure. Alright, and speaking of licensed epoch characters, boy, does that remind you of anything. Yeah, that looks certainly like a Sentinel from the X-Men comics. But for some reason they couldn't call it a Sentinel in this game. They'd call it the more generic giant robot, even though quite clearly it is a Sentinel in every manifestation. Which gets weirder because later on in the game you actually have a fight against Juggernaut, and they call him Juggernaut, but they can't call the Sentinel Sentinel. I'm not even going to try to figure this stuff out. In 90s comic book law is just something that's just beyond human grasp of knowledge, it appears. So you like my strategy there of just, hitting the Sentinel in the testicles over and over again? I think it's a very effective strategy. And one thing I absolutely love about this game is all the projectiles you pick up. So obviously you have soda cans and, barrels just laying around. There's just something so satisfying innately about finishing off a boss by throwing a Pepsi bottle at them. One of my favorite things about the game. So some of those things where it's a good drinking game too, where you're trying to finish off as many opponents by throwing a bottle at them as possible, or a can. I know, I'm being a little bit too on the nose here. Now, as far as the basic henchmen here, I'm not really sure if they have a comic book tie or not. I know who the hugger guy there is, but he's very annoying. Like I said, he's very, very annoying. Thankfully, you can just flex your pecs and blow him up. And the voice acting in this game, I think even though you have like 4 different characters to choose from, they all have the same voice. I think the bad guys are all by the same voice actor, just doing different intonations, so it's not the highest production values as far as audio, but I still think it does a pretty good job. It's got some good sound effects, and you'll see it here in this battle against the Reaper. So how do they got that sound effect? They just got like a floor unit fan and just recorded it. It's like a pencil sharpener to me. But yeah, like I was saying earlier, so many great villains. Like, you would never see the Grim Reaper in a game today. You wouldn't see the Living Laser. You wouldn't see a lot of these guys. So many obscure characters. Like, it gets even weirder later on in the game as far as the obscure ones. Now, as far as the fighting system itself, like I said, not terribly in depth. Basically, you have one attack button. You have your long-range projectile attack. But the thing is, you have to charge up projectile attack. It takes a second or two for it to actually fly across the screen. So it's actually a whole lot more cost-effective for you to just go in there and just hit the attack button over and over again. So yeah, it's your standard early 1990s beat 'em up. The bad guys certainly have a certain attack pattern, and it's mostly about memorization. So let's follow the story here. The Reaper has regained consciousness, and now he's telling about the Red Skull, who looks suspiciously like the Toxic Avenger painted red. This has such a great early 90s comic vibe where it's like cheesy but not self-reflexive, which is something you have a really hard time doing nowadays with these kind of properties. So it very much feels like a creation of this time. There's a sincerity to this one that I think you just don't see in a lot of properties today. So yeah, you got Captain America, you got other three characters, we'll be showing them shortly. I just really got on a Captain America hobby horse here to get the game going because, I mean, come on, it's Captain America, he's way cooler than the Vision and Hawkeye. So as far as the structure and pacing of the game, first off, you gotta talk about the dialogue there. The dialogue is very Englishy. As far as the mechanics of the game, though, like I was going to earlier, the pacing is pretty good. I mean, you have a couple of battles against goons, switch up the mechanics every now and then, but the boss fights usually kind of play out the same. It's also kind of weird that sometimes the audio stitching in the game, they'll actually say the name of the characters, and other times it just kind of goes blank for whatever reason, but it's not me to judge. Alright, so now we're doing our best In the Hunt impersonation as we go underwater for some more side-scrolling shooting action. Find scuba divers. I just love the, I guess you really wouldn't call it ambiance, but I guess it is a certain atmosphere to the game. Where, you know, it just feels... It feels like an early 1990s cartoon. And it's just it's a really cool vibe. It's something that you just really don't get anymore. I don't think you can kind of get this kind of game made at any other point other than the early 1990s. And here we have my favorite battle of the game. It's against a character called the Mech Taco. Why it's called the Mech Taco, I have no idea. If this is an actual canonical Marvel character, I've never heard of it before, but sometimes you just gotta fight the giant mechanical octopus underwater. You know, it's just it's like an early 1990s arcade game law. You have to fight a mechanical arthropod at some point in your sojourns. So, that's that. Take that, Mech Taco. I really do want Mech Taco to become sort of a cult character. Let him come back for, you know, next Lego Marvel game. Alright, so now we're getting to a point in the game where it's very much sort of a grind. We have a whole lot more enemies showing up. We get sort of, you know, gang ravaged. We got a new mechanic here. We get to bust some walls. Nothing too intriguing there. Got some new stuff to throw around. We got our power up. We got the hugger over here who's getting us. Pretty much what you see is what you get. I mean, not a whole lot of surprises on this one. Oh man, my voice is trying to get a little dried out here. Okay, time for me to die and show you some more characters. Let's break out Iron Man. Let's show you what he's got. May he rest in peace. I also like how your characters in this game don't necessarily die. They just become paralyzed, which is actually kind of more disturbing in a way. Alright, so we got Iron Man here, and basically all the characters have the same, more or less, melee attacks. Follows the same pattern where you punch, then kick. Okay, that was cool. See what I did there when I threw the guy against the wall? Okay, that is the funniest thing in the entire game. With today's Asian conscious market, I don't think you could have Mandarin run around speaking like he's that one guy in Breakfast at Tiffany's. But the thing about the game that I really enjoy, and a lot of things I like about it, is how true to life is the comic. Because you have Mandarin here breaking out a lot of the powers that you see in the comics. So these guys, they did their research. They didn't just, you know, go out there and give these guys really, you know, generic gameplay structure suiting powers. They stuck to their guns pretty well. They gave some credence to source material. I think that's pretty respectable. Also, this is probably like one of my favorite manifestations of the Mandarin. I know he in the Iron Man cartoon from the 90s. He was like a green dude with a Fu Manchu mustache. This one kind of looks pretty cool. I mean, it's obvious in our early 90s design. I think it'd cut mustard today, but not bad. I mean, we've seen way worse looking villains in this game already. So of course you also have the jumping projectile attack, and you can just punch him in the stomach. No reason to be too creative there. Also, do you like the Red Skull's German accent there? Where he sounds more Cuban than anything else. Like I said, you really can't expect the Japanese game designers to care that much, you know, about the accents. So also, like, this is kind of the point in time where all of the major bad guys in the Marvel Universe, they weren't like outer space dictators, they're all like businessmen. Like the Kingpin was a billionaire media mogul, and somehow the Red Skull became like a legit businessman in the early 90s. I thought that was kind of weird, you know, it's a very anti-capitalist stance this game takes. And we got more huggers here, we got some more bric-a-brac to throw people around. Got to throw a copier machine at people. You really can't complain about that. Lots of cool things about this game. So yeah, I think with only 4 characters, not a whole lot of diversity. They all more or less play the same. They kind of have the same body model. Of course, I would have loved to have seen, you know, Thor incorporated in the game, or the Hulk. But I think the licensing at the time would have forbid it for some reason. Lots of other great Avengers I think would have made a great addition to this game. But you can't complain what you get. I mean, you get a pretty good roster here. So what are Wonder Man's powers exactly? Is it just a guy with a mullet that's strong? It seems like that's like half the Marvel universe in the early 90s. Oh, and here's something awesome. We're taking on Juggernaut. Although it's a Juggernaut with a very unique design. I don't think I've ever seen him before where he has, instead of the exposed eyes, he just has like the one like creepy crystal ball. Which I actually think makes it a better design overall. I think it makes more sense for the character. You know, obviously, just makes him look scarier. I think it kind of fits the whole Juggernaut name even better. Of course, the size isn't as big as it was in the one X-Men game, which I think was the cool variable there. And there's me breaking out the Hawkeye there. Now, I thought that was a really cool design. Never been a huge Hawkeye fan, but I just thought he had a really cool look. Okay, there's me getting some more life. And there's me breaking some stuff with arrows. You gotta admit, you know, he's kind of the weak character in the Link. I mean, Iron Man is obviously a powerful cyborg. The Vision is like some sentient robot guy, and Hawkeye's just a guy with a bow and arrow. The one guy you want there fighting, you know, Ultron and Juggernaut. You know, I do kind of actually like the design of the random bad guys and cronies in the game. I mean, they're very generic, but it's kind of that cool early 90s, you know, Rob Liefeld generic. You know, you wouldn't get that design nowadays. It has a very clean IKEA look to it. So yeah, at this point I have nothing to talk about. I mean, this game is pretty much just it. I mean, you can only beat up so many gajillion bad guys in a row before you kind of have things to talk about. I need a commentary partner for these kind of videos. There's only just so much one person can say about, you know, gorilla press slamming robots over and over again. There's something I never thought I'd say. That seems like it would be sort of an evergreen kind of topic, but there's that. Also, this guy right here is quite annoying. In case you can't tell, it's kind of hard to take down. So yeah, for those of you wondering, there actually was a home port of this game that came out, I believe, on the Sega Genesis. There's also a version that came out on the Game Gear, version that came out on the Game Boy, obviously a dumbed down version, but a version nonetheless. I'm not sure if this game ever came out on the Super Nintendo though. I don't recall playing that. I recall playing the Genesis one though, for sure, and it was a pretty good port. A lot better than you probably think it would be. Obviously a graphical downgrade, but overall it didn't really sacrifice a whole lot. Alright, so now we come to Ultron looking like a platinum version of the creature from the Black Lagoon, which I always kind of thought was what the character should be. Just a very spooky looking guy. Which kind of makes you wonder, you know, how great would it have been to have had like a universal monster to beat him up. When he plays Lagoon and he plays Dracula and Frankenstein, that would have been awesome. But neither here nor there. You can't change the past. Just gotta use your imagination. So, and this is the incarnation of the Vision where, this is the one where after he had the red and green suit, where he had like a Christmas ornament, decided to just go the next logical step and just make him like a naked cookie dough guy. He also has a weird stance, like it's a very, I'm not even sure how you describe that, like where you have your arms spread out and you're supposed to kind of make him look like Zen or Buddha-esque, but it just comes off as really effeminate and painful to me. Like it's not a very natural looking standing pose, but who am I to judge? Not me. Also, I really haven't talked about the music so far in this game. I talked a little about the special effects. I think they're pretty good. The music here, not the best from the epoch, but at the same time, I do think it's pretty good. It's serviceable. You know, it gives you that very melodramatic vibe. It feels very comic booky. I mean, you really can't complain about that. It gets the job done. Alright, we got some more, looks like we got some shoot 'em up and going on. Scrolling those sides. One of the nice things to attention to detail there is the onomatopoeias when they explode. And I think it's one of those things where it's a very obvious thing to do in a comic book inspired property, but this adds a whole lot to the game in my opinion. It's a very nice touch. Kind of cheesy, not gonna lie, but you know, who cares? This is the Avengers, supposed to be cheesy and hokey and not serious. After all, it is a game intended for children and young teens with difficulties reading. Oh, one of the cool things about these segments is when you're playing as Captain America or Hawkeye, they put like a little fishbowl over their heads so they can breathe. It's just a very nice little aesthetic touch, in my opinion. I don't know, I really like these little speed shooters where they're in the plastic bubble. I always wanted to have one of those. I hope technology advances. You know, Elon Musk gets one of those developed eventually. Not sure if I want one that shoots lasers, but maybe like, I don't know, pizzas would be great. Just really get the whole early 1990s Hasbro action figure food fight stuff going on. So I guess you could argue that the layout here, or at least the level design, kind of formulaic, but I don't know, I think it kind of works to its favor. Like I said, you don't really get backgrounds like this in other games. They feel very painted on, which is something that you just don't get a lot of the genre contemporaries. Yeah, so this one's pretty straightforward. Beat up some more robots, throw wrenches at things, beat up towers. You know, all the great early 90s activities and pastimes. So I've been reading comics a while, and I'm not really sure exactly what the Vision's powers are exactly. I mean, I know he can fly and he's strong and he can do a lot of other things, but I'm not still entirely sure what the entire canon scope there of what he does is. Alright, so we've seen all the characters. Let's get Captain America back in here. If you're going to have a game called Captain America and the Avengers, you better close out with Captain America. So let's bring on Steve here. So it is kind of interesting. This game did come out, I think, a year after that really terrible Captain America straight to blockbuster movie came out, which no one remembers for good reason. So, did you know you're trapped, according to Crossbones? So I've never heard of these guys before. Control. Are these actual like Marvel characters? Like, how obscure are they? Though you gotta say, this setup right here is pretty great with the saw blades in the floor. It's very cube-esque. I like it. So these guys remind me of somebody. I mean, there's so many Marvel characters that have that same look that these guys have. Where they have the hood and the boots and underwear set up. But I don't know. They remind me of, is it Pate Plus Pete, the Trapster? You know who they're supposed to be? I don't know. Alright, so let's beat these guys up some more. And the fight against Crossbones is probably my favorite in the entire game because he drops a bunch of projectiles, and if you look at the Easter eggs in the background there, check that out. All the previous bosses you've already fought, so it's pretty neat. So one of the great tragedies, this game never had a sequel. I mean, it was a popular game, everybody played it, but I guess they never, the big variable is they never had that Captain America cartoon in the early 90s. Some of them had the X-Men and Batman, so sadly we never got the licensed game treatment as far as a follow-up. But yeah, Crossbones is the best boss fight in the entire game. I mean, you can actually pick up his knives and throw them at him like Double Dragon. He's throwing out landmines that you can pick up and throw back at him. That's pretty awesome. And he has the best animation in the entire game too. I mean, that's just a bad ass looking thing. You know, Crossbones is one of those guys where he's a lame character, but he has such a cool aesthetic to him. It's kind of hard to not, enjoy. So yeah, and this guy over there, who's the guy on the left on the computer monitor with the antlers? Is he, I don't know, to me, he almost kind of looks like Galactus, but I know it's not Galactus, it's somebody else done. So he has guns and knives and hoovers and all sorts of great bric-a-brac. And he can do cartwheel rolls, even though he's like 240 pounds. Alright, so we're getting close to the denouement for this one. So a great thing about the game is, one of the things I guarantee you would not be seeing in a video game nowadays. This depiction of the Red Skull would not be smoking. I mean, that's one of those things where you would see people like dropping like racial slurs and homophobia before they would be smoking. That's just absolutely verboten. Even if they are like an evil Nazi genocidal space alien who wants to enslave the world. You can't have them smoke. That's too evil. That's too inappropriate. So yeah, we're kind of at the last boss crush here. I'm gonna get a drink because I've been talking for like 3 hours about this game, and I need to get some liquid relief. But let's hear what Red Skull has to say. Not a whole lot. So yeah, he's coming off as a pretty easy bad guy, which of course is the oldest trick in the beat 'em up book, where you have the really overly simplistic first round of the boss fight before leading to the real boss fight where he turns into like a 20-foot tall mutant. Not saying he does that in this game, spoiler. But it sure is simplistic being up Red Skull for a final boss fight, isn't it? I also like his karate attacks there. Like it's literal karate movements.
It's another trap.
Oh, and the Red Skull's actually a robot who...
We'll teach you the meaning of justice.
Man, what a great line. It's obviously like the guys who wrote it had no idea what they were saying in English, but it gives a charm where it almost feels like it's something that actually would be said, like in a Jack Kirby comic. I don't know, I just love that. And I also love the Red Skull over there hanging out in a glass vase and smoking, because that's got to be really gross. The air quality can't be too good in that one. So the mechanical skull, not sure if that's an actual comic book thing, but it's a nice, I guess, aesthetic there. I mean, came out around the same time as Terminator 2, so cyborgs are definitely in style. There's a very creepy design to it, you know, with the red tint. It's like a demonic demon skeleton that shoots tornadoes at you. Don't know where the tornado thing came from, but hey, it's there. So yeah, strategy's simple here. You're just gonna go in there with leg kicks, you know. Just try to take them down. Go and let Matt Mitrione against Kimbo Slice in that one fight. Just take their legs out from under him. So yeah, I guess, you know, in the grand pantheon of beat 'em ups, it's not a terribly difficult final boss. He's no Magneto in X-Men, or the final boss in Captain Commando, which took like $4 worth of quarters to beat. And of course, Red Skull is defeated by his own hubris, his own ill-thought design, and that's pretty much the end of the game. From here on out, it's just one long cutscene and credits. So. I'll give you some brief commentary to close out here. Do you see how much money they spent on the background on that one? Yeah, about a nickel. Nice blotchy gray. And we have more of the comic book vibe here, which not bad. I mean, I think it works for the property. So I'm guessing this entire thing took place on the moon. Pretty close by satellite, at least. One of the things I really like about games like this is, even though it is in English most of the time, they at least get the comma placement right. They know how to do that. There's a lot of, you know, senior college English majors who can't get that figured out. So the fact these guys get it down is pretty impressive. So we have our obvious sequel hook here, and you'll see the Red Skull zooming out, apparently being an escapee. And I guess if you're a hardcore Avengers fan, you're going to be upset by this one. They don't get Avengers Assemble. You get Avengers Unite. So close. Very, very close. Not close enough, but what can you do? And what do you know? The Red Skull, he escaped. Who would have thought it? So yeah, it's a game with no twists. No curveballs. It is what it is. And now we get the long credits. It goes on for like 5 minutes, so boy, how am I gonna get through this one? I have nothing to say about this stuff. Why do I do this? I really need someone to like do commentary duties with me. I like K Jimbo though. I don't know if he's related to me, but he might be. As they just fly through miscellaneous debris in outer space. You think his name is really Mad Scientist? Like his parents actually named him Mad Scientist. It's on his birth certificate. So, gonna be a shocker here. I'm not really familiar with any of these people. I've never heard of Shinichi Sato. I saw him at Tokyo Dome that one time against Shinyo Hashimata, but beyond that, I got nothing. Jeff Brown, Steve Miller, obviously names that are not fitting in with the rest of the list here. So Data East, they made a lot of really good arcade games back in the day. They did, Joe and Mac, Dashing Desperados. Kind of sad the way they ended up making that really crappy Mortal Kombat ripoff and really bad pinball games, and just going the way of the dinosaur, because I think they're vastly underrated. Not sure I want to live in a world without Data East representation. So yeah, we got about 2 minutes here, and how about that? The Avengers supporting LGBT pride way back in Something you really wouldn't expect in a Data East game.
Captain America.
Alright, so let's run down the list of characters one more time and call it a day. With a little bit of delay. But yeah, all in all, I think it's a pretty fun game. You know, it's very straightforward. You meet the entire thing in 30 seconds. It's got a good multiplayer component. It's got a lot of early 90s comic book ephemera. So there's lots of reasons to go out and try this one. You know, if you're a hardcore Avengers fan, it's fun to kind of go back and see the way things were. And if you're a beat 'em up fan like me, it's got some nice stuff to it. It's got some cool mechanics, good pace, nice character design, overall pretty good art, and also you have really weird stuff like this going on, where the cast of Scooby-Doo and guys with eye patches celebrate Captain America. This is just good old-fashioned, hokey, early 90s wholesome fun, and of course, my last thing I gotta do is my due diligence. We're gonna do a high score, we're gonna do a high score right, and we're gonna give it in tribute to the one thing that deserves it more than anything. If you're gonna be Captain America, there's only one thing you can name yourself for your high score profile, and that is, damn right, USA, baby. God bless America. God bless Data East, God bless the Avengers. Talk about fun.